Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise to bring you the critical intelligence you need. Today, we're looking at something that might seem a bit counterintuitive. Everyone's talking electric, right? Decarbonization, the end of traditional engines. But what if one of the, let's say, unsung heroes of the diesel world isn't just holding on, but actually growing? We're diving into cradle-mounted inline fuel injection pumps. Now, for those of you in heavy machinery, industrial power, you know these things. They're vital, the heartbeat for so many engines.
That's right. And it's interesting because while common rail systems are, everywhere in newer passenger cars, these inline pumps have this enduring quality. They're robust, simpler, often better with varying fuel quality, perfect for tough jobs. Think construction, agriculture, even marine applications. Hard, continuous work. So their growth, which we'll get into, it really reflects that ongoing foundational need in heavy industry.
Exactly. So our mission today, we're going to unpack the fuel injection pump market, global and regional outlook report from Cognitive Market Research. We want to get past the headlines, find the real story. Where's the surprising growth? Why are certain regions booming? What's the outlook? By the end of this, you'll have, hopefully, a much clearer picture of this, vital but often overlooked industrial segment, one that keeps defying expectations. Okay. Let's get into it. So when we think about global trends, it's easy to just focus on the next big shiny thing, disruption. But these numbers, they seem to tell a different story about established tech. What's the global snapshot show us?
Well, it's significant. Despite all the talk, all the pressure from electrification, emission rules, this market shows remarkable vitality, real consistent growth. The global revenue back in 2021 was $1,635.9 million.
Okay.
And the projection is expected to hit $1,848.3 million by 2025.
Right.
And looking further out to 2033, we're talking $2,359.7 million.
Wow.
That works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR of 3.1%. So it's not just hanging on. It really underlines this deep reliance in specific heavy-duty sectors, places where, the alternatives just aren't there yet economically or practically at scale.
3.1% CAGR, starting from 2021 figures. Especially with all the noise around going electric, that feels like more than just consistent, doesn't it? It suggests, like you said, a really embedded need. It's easy to forget, amidst the EV buzz, that the huge machines building our roads, farming our food, they still need to run reliably, day after day.
Okay, so let's break it down regionally. Where's this demand really showing up? Maybe start with North America.
Sure. In North America, the market's projected to grow from $484.2 million in 2021 up to $679.6 million by 2033. That's holding a CAGR of about 2.9%. Pretty steady.
Okay, 2.9%. And within North America, any specific drivers or leaders?
Absolutely. The U.S. is, it's the biggest piece of the pie, projected to go from $362.7 million in 2021 to $503.6 million by 2033. That's driven largely by, ongoing infrastructure work, a strong agricultural base.
Makes sense. But interestingly, Canada is actually forecast to grow a bit faster, a stronger CAGR, 3.3%. That takes it from $85.2 million up to $127.8 million. Maybe suggests more focused expansion in certain heavy industries there.
Interesting.
And Mexico contributes steadily too, growing from $36.3 million to $48.3 million by 2033. Also benefiting from its own industrial and farming growth.
Okay, that paints a clear picture for North America. Now, let's hop across the Atlantic, Europe. What's happening there? I heard there might be some unexpected hotspots.
Europe's also showing healthy growth, yeah. It was valued around $420.4 million in 2021. And the projection is $618.2 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 3.2%. So slightly higher than North America overall.
Okay.
Within Europe, Germany is the leader, as you might expect, growing from $92.1 million to $152.7 million. France and Italy follow. But the real standout is Luxembourg.
Luxembourg.
Yeah, tiny base, right?
Yeah.
$13 million back in 2021. But it's projected to hit $25.3 million by 2033. That's an astonishing 5.6% CAGR.
Whoa, 5.6% in Luxembourg.
Mm-hmm.
That seems really high for such a specific component in a smaller country, especially when...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
For such a specific component in a smaller country, especially when you mention, say, Spain and Russia are growing under 2%.
Yeah.
What could be driving that?
That's definitely a curious point the report flags. It doesn't dive super deep into the why for Luxembourg specifically, but it does speak to how, specialized industrial needs can create these surprising little pockets of growth. Luxembourg, although small, has huge logistics, finance sectors,
Yeah.
often supported by quite specialized construction and heavy transport. Could be that. It's a great example of how industrial growth isn't always, evenly spread. Focused, high-value uses can really skew demand, even in unlikely places.
I see. That's a really important nuance. Okay, let's widen the lens now. Let's look at where a lot of the big industrial expansion is happening.
Yeah,
Asia
yeah.
Pacific.
Right.
The developing economies there, I imagine they're really driving demand for these pumps.
You're absolutely right. The Asia-Pacific market is huge here,
Sure.
growing from $502.2 million in 2021 to an estimated $740.9 million by 2033. That's a strong CAGR of 3.3%. China, no surprise, is the biggest contributor by volume, set to grow from $157.2 million to $238.6 million. Massive infrastructure manufacturing.
Yeah.
But notably, India is showing an even stronger growth rate, a 3.9% CAGR, increasing from $79.3 million in 2021 to $128.2 million by 2033. It's really driven by rapid industrialization, a booming agricultural sector.
Okay, 3.9% for India, that's significant.
Definitely. And places like Southeast Asia, Australia, South Korea, they're all adding to that strong regional momentum, too, with their own diverse industries.
So Asia is clearly a powerhouse, broad development driving it. What about South America? How does that fit in? Can we link its growth to specific sectors like maybe mining or agriculture down there?
Yeah, absolutely. In South America, Brazil is key. Market projected to rise from $50 million in 2021 to nearly $80 million, $79.9 million by 2033.
Okay.
And what's really interesting there is you see countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile.
Yeah.
They're all showing consistent KGRs above 4%.
It's above 4%. Wow.
Yes. And if you connect the dots, like you said, these markets are benefiting hugely from growing fleets of diesel equipment for critical sectors, exactly like mining, large-scale agriculture, major infrastructure projects, especially as, urbanization continues and resource extraction ramps up across the continent. That's the why. That's the core driver.
Right. So Asia and South America really underline that link to infrastructure, agriculture, resource extraction. It reinforces the idea that, every region plays a part, but the drivers can be quite specific. Okay, just quickly then, let's touch on the Middle East and Africa to complete the picture.
Sure. In the Middle East, growth looks a bit more gradual. Turkey, for example, is expected to move from $23.4 million up to $30.6 million by 2033. But it's worth noting the countries grouped as rest of Middle East, they show a lower CAGR, just 2%, which might suggest, maybe less expansion in demand, perhaps economies diversifying away from traditional heavy industry, or maybe infrastructure is more mature in some areas.
Okay. And Africa.
Africa's market, it's smaller overall, but still shows moderate growth. Egypt is leading there. Projected $16.6 million in 2021 to about $18.9 million by 2033. Nigeria and South Africa follow, slightly slower CAGRs, but still part of that global momentum as their industrial sectors develop.
Got it. So even the smaller markets contribute something to the global total.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up, our deep dive today. It seems clear the simple story, diesel is dead, well, it's just not the full picture, is it? Despite electrification talk, emission rules, the market for these sort of unseen, cradle-mounted inline pumps is actually very robust. It's growing, driven especially by those heavy industrial sectors and by developing economies needing reliable power for growth.
Precisely. And it means, really, that to understand how the global economy actually works, you often have to look beyond the big headlines. You need to look into these crucial, maybe less glamorous, but absolutely steadfast industries that literally power our lives every day. They're workhorses, right? The silent engines doing a massive amount of work, even if they don't get the spotlight.
So what does this all mean for you, listening in, trying to make sense of global industry? Well, it fundamentally challenges that simplistic view of, technological change. It tells us it's not just diesel versus electric. It's way more nuanced. A multi-speed global economy. Foundational technologies, especially the ones vital for heavy-duty work where reliability and toughness are absolutely key. They're showing amazing staying power, real growth. Even while other sectors electrify rapidly, it suggests these core industrial components, they're going to keep their critical role for much longer than maybe some people predict. It really makes you think, doesn't it? About how different parts of our world are changing, but maybe at very different speeds. Something to ponder. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at something that might fly under the radar for many, but it's absolutely fundamental, really, to some of the world's heaviest machinery. We're talking about cradle-mounted inline fuel injection pumps. Basically, these robust, mechanically driven systems, they meter and deliver fuel directly to each cylinder, crucial for countless heavy-duty engines. Our mission to cut through the noise using our research and get you really well informed on their market dynamics and, well, their surprisingly resilient future. So let's dig in.
Yeah, it's a great topic. These pumps have established such a critical, almost foundational role, particularly in that heavy-duty diesel engine sector. They're often the unsung workhorses, powering a huge chunk of global commerce and construction.
That's a crucial point, the heavy-duty role. But maybe for our listener, can you paint a clearer picture? Where are these pumps really indispensable, and what specific characteristics make them dominate?
Well, their main territory, you could say, is construction equipment, agricultural machinery, and commercial vehicles. What makes them indispensable there is really their...
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Commercial vehicles. What makes them indispensable there is really their inherent design. You get precise fuel delivery, highly efficient combustion. It's not just power. It's about ruggedness, reliability. Think about a tractor in a remote field. If something fails, it needs to be simple, right? Simple to fix, maybe swap out quickly. These pumps, they're built for tough conditions, easy to maintain. That's why they still, rule in those environments.
Okay, so durability is a massive plus, and your research points to demand drivers, like infrastructure expansion, farming growth, especially in emerging markets, Asia, Latin America, Africa. Is it just the economic growth, or is there something specific about these pumps for those markets?
It's definitely the growth, but also the type of growth. In many of these economies, the infrastructure push often favors technology that's robust, easily maintained, repairable, maybe over the absolute latest complexity. These pumps fit that description perfectly. And what's more, their straightforward installation, the upkeep. It fuels a huge aftermarket potential. Operators can economically extend the life of existing engines. Retrofitting, replacing units, that's a big deal where brand new equipment might just cost too much.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But, it can't all be smooth sailing for such an established technology, can it? The industry's facing some pretty big headwinds now. That shift towards alternative fuels, electrification, EVs, hydrogen, CNG engines, it's reshaping everything. How are these traditional pumps holding up against that kind of pressure?
They're definitely in a, let's say, challenging transition. Take the emission norms getting tighter globally. Things like Euro 6, BSVI in India. These aren't small tweaks. They demand big cuts in NOx, particulate matter. Traditional inline pumps, yeah, they're reliable, but they can struggle to hit those low thresholds without some pretty expensive modifications. So manufacturers have to, innovate or adapt quite significantly.
And compared to, say, modern common rail systems, which are all electronic precision, these older pumps might seem a bit more mechanically intricate, maybe less adaptable for advanced engine calibration. Is that a big limitation when you're chasing ultra-clean engines?
It does present a different set of trade-offs, yeah. Their mechanical nature means, less flexibility for dynamic adjustments compared to electronically controlled common rail. Yeah. And that can sometimes mean higher maintenance costs in certain applications, especially as engine designs get more integrated, needing really fine-tuned fuel delivery for the latest standards.
So with all these challenges, it kind of sounds like these pumps might be on borrowed time. Is there any silver lining here, or is it really just an inevitable decline? Your sources hinted at something surprising.
What's really fascinating is how indispensable they still are in certain niche and industrial sectors. Think marine propulsion, heavy-duty, off-highway stuff like mining trucks, stationary engines for power generation. In those places, ruggedness, simplicity, sheer reliability. That's paramount, often more critical than the absolute cutting edge of emissions tech. And these pumps, they just deliver on that front.
So it's like they found their niche where ruggedness wins out. And they're not just standing still, are they? Manufacturers are adding things like electronic governors, integrating with the ECU, the engine's brain, so they can meet modern emission standards but still keep that core mechanical strength. That's quite an evolution, actually.
Exactly. And speaking of adaptability, there's another angle, sustainability. We're seeing really significant growth in the remanufacturing industry for these pumps, especially in developing regions where cost is key. This isn't just about saving money, though. It really speaks to the durability of the modular design. It creates a kind of circular economy for a core industrial part. That's something many modern, highly integrated systems find difficult. It keeps them relevant, offering a cost-effective and environmentally responsible option.
Right. So what does this all really mean for you listening in?
Well, if you connect the dots, despite all the pressure from new engine tech and stricter emissions rules, these Cradle-mounted pumps, they're showing remarkable resilience. The ongoing tech upgrades, the remanufacturing boom, It means it'll likely remain a vital, enduring part of the global diesel engine world for years to come.
And that leaves us with perhaps a provocative thought to consider. This deep dive really shows how even established technologies facing totally new challenges can adapt. They innovate. They find continued relevance, sometimes in unexpected ways. It's really a testament to good, solid engineering finding its place, even when the world changes so dramatically around it.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.